Hey, this is Coach, and you're listening to Coach's Corner, where sales leaders raise their game.
Hey, Mark. So the one-on-one, right? Probably one of the most used terms in a sales organization. We have the fortune and ambition to be working with tons and tons and tons of different sales orgs, shapes and sizes. I know you feel strongly about really without structure and process and a few other things in the one-on-one, it can go wrong. Right. A one-on-one sometimes can be a very short, quick check-in between a manager and a rep, but it shouldn't be that way. So when you think about a one-on-one, Mark, how should that look? What's the cadence of it? And then where do people commonly go wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one-on-ones, the first thing is they have to happen. At a lot of orgs, unfortunately, they don't happen. And for the frontline managers out there, you have to have a one-on-one regularly with your team. When should that be? How often? It should be weekly. It should be early on in the week where you're setting the tone for the week. In general, it should be 5 to 7 questions. Those questions should not be too specific. They need to be, tell me about highlights and lowlights of last week. Where are you stuck? How have you tried to get unstuck? How can I help you? Make these employee led and let the conversation be less than 45 minutes. Oftentimes we'll see a customer try to schedule an hour. And the truth is, when you schedule it for an hour, you got a meeting on the back end of that. Action items that come out of that coaching session get lost. You need to give yourself a little bit of time, document action items, and even act right there in the moment to show that rep or that rep to show you that they're taking the feedback and moving on.
Yeah, I want to dig in on a point you said there. You mentioned rep-led or employee-led. What does that mean, right? Can you elaborate more on what an employee-led one-on-one looks like versus a manager-led one-on-one?
Yeah. Employee-led means that they're still going to have questions from the leader or from enablement that need to be asked about the top initiative at the business, for example. However, rather than the manager dictating, this is what you're going to go do, this is the exact play we're going to run, rather than saying, hey, Brian, I'd like you to go email this person, call this person, and record this video, might say, hey, Brian, we need to get to person A and B. What do you think you should do, we should do to help you get there? And now you are coming up with a solution versus being told directly from me. It's important to separate out. With underperformers, you as a leader are going to be more directive. With your top performers, the people who are generally hitting their quotas, that's where more of the what do you think is the best solution can be really valuable. They may have a better idea than you do. But Brian, you coach, as we call you, you live a lot of this yourself. You've run tons of one-on-ones. Where do you feel like the biggest pitfall lies in the one-on-one? And where have you seen success in this kind of directive versus indirective coaching?
Yeah, I think one really specific miss frontline sales managers have is they add call coaching or deal review in a lot more than just a one-on-one check-in into the one-on-one time, right? You mentioned being employee-led. That one-on-one is not for you as a sales manager. That is for your rep, right? That is for them to essentially, like you said, kick the week off in the right way. And it's your job to remove barriers, right? To enable the coach to develop. And if you're not letting that employee lead you to where they need help, you can miss some really simple and specific things that go a long way. So you have to delineate, the how are you doing, like you mentioned those questions, like you need to have separate time for strategic sales coaching versus a one-on-one check-in. The one-on-one should be about the person. It should be about the body of their work, not a specific deal or a specific call. And yes, those things will come up in one-on-ones because they may be super top of mind, but you need to have separate time for those two things. Another thing I think a lot of leaders miss, and you said this earlier, Mark, is like it needs to happen, right? We have a belief over here that the one-on-one is the most important meeting on the calendar. So like if you're a manager that's constantly busy, constantly being pulled in different directions, you're managing up, you're managing your reps, you don't have resources to prepare and to know all 10 of your reps numbers. It's really easy to get overwhelmed and think, well, this isn't a revenue generating meeting. I got to kill this meeting, and really bump your rep to the side. Especially if you're a hybrid team or you're remote, man, that's sometimes that's the only time that rep gets to talk to somebody else. And I think the last thing I would say there is that exactly is that needs to happen on a programmatic cadence.
Yeah, the
Or else you lose
drive-by
buy-in.
coaching. The I'm so busy. I mean, the current story is our company did a layoff. My team went from 6 to 10. I'm putting out so many fires. I'm chasing every deal. I don't have time to spend 30 or 45 minutes with an employee on development. That is the wrong take. By spending that 30 or 45 minutes with that employee on development, now they start to manage their own fires, or there's fewer fires. Now they're starting to close at a higher ratio, and therefore it's freeing you up to be more strategic in your role. It's pouring into the employee, helping them get unstuck, helping them get developed, that allows you as a manager to run at a better, more strategic pace. And so, in defense of the manager, they're just so damn busy right now that it's important for the company to enable them and make it easy on them to have a valuable coaching conversation. And what does that look like? It's bringing multiple data sources into one place to easily tell the frontline manager if this employee is performing or not, if not where, and what should they do about it. Especially at scale, a company has to enable the frontline manager with the answers, or the template, if you will, of how they guide certain conversations. And so one of the big problems that we see at Ambition is you'll have a huge enterprise that is coaching discovery calls, for example, in 12 different ways, because 12 different managers have their own take. Well, that may be okay if you have 2 teams, but when you have 12 teams, there's a need to drive consistency in order to diagnose where people are going wrong at scale, so you can drive big programs that drive big change.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one thing that we have the fortune of seeing in our lens is like enterprise organizations understand the value and need to have these scalable processes in place. And sometimes the SMB and mid-market don't value, not that they don't believe that coaching is important, but they don't invest in it, right? I think often smaller organizations want to invest in technology that amplifies the frontline rep, that allows them to maybe use an auto dialer or a mass sequencing tool, or really like double down on activity. And a lot of orgs miss scaling that tribal knowledge that those frontline managers hold. And I think it's really important when you think about how you enable your people. You got to have a tool that's actually investing in them, right? It's not a flashy weapon to allow them to do more. It's actually for that person. And when you do that, that's how you scale all of those things that happen in that one-on-one.
You're making me think about like the investment that's happened in sales process over the last, 5-10 years. Every company has a tool invested in sales process. RevOps isn't doing their job if that isn't tight. When does that happen to the coaching process? Well, people are already investing in it and seeing big wins here, but when does it become the ubiquitous no-brainer? What coaching process tool are we using to drive? Imagine, this will make enablement nervous, but imagine RevOps being involved in driving a coaching process. Now, I would want enablement in that conversation too, but imagine that kind of obsession driving across frontline managers to ensure the coaching happens. It's on the right topics. It's metric driven. There are action items coming from it, and now you can prove if coaching actually works. Get fired up on that one, but think about the same type of passion around process for coaching versus just sales process. And you, coach, know all about that.
Love it, Mark.